Hello, everyone. My name is Anna, and I'm happy to present our joint work with my colleagues from Ontotext, Alexis and Svetla, and a PhD candidate from Sofia University, Sylvia. Today, we're going to talk about transformer-based named entity recognition for diseases and drugs in multilingual text. This is a work regarding our participation in MultiCardioNER challenge that was targeting extracting named entity recognitions from cardiovascular disease discharge summaries. And in one of the tracks, we had to extract diseases from Spanish text. You can look at the first example. And the second example illustrates the second track, where we had to extract drug names from discharge reports in Spanish, Italian, and English. And as always, I will start with the description of our data processing, because data comes first. We were given broad annotations of discharge reports with some annotated entities, and the reports were quite lengthy. So before doing any training and extraction, we had to split them into sentences. And we did splitting with specific medical-oriented tools, like Spacey for English, a tool provided by Barcelona Supercomputing Center for Spanish, and TINT for Italian. Then we did some token alignment, and as a result, we obtained QNLL transformation of those sentences with the standard schema that you can see on the right-hand side. After all, we obtained above than 15,000 sentences for each of the dataset that we trained our models on. But what is important to note here, that especially for cardio CCC dataset, the reports were quite lengthy, and not all of the sentences contained annotations. Actually, it was below 10% of the sentences that had those. Because when doctors list drugs or diseases, they usually do it in one sentence as a list and do not spread it across the whole document. There were also some challenges with the way data was annotated. For instance, in the medication extraction track, there were inconsistent annotations with respect to the medication name that consisted of two words. Some of them were joined by plus or slash, and in some cases they were annotated as a single entity. In some other cases, they were splitted. The same holds true for the disease annotations. Sometimes the long disease name and following abbreviation were joined as a unique single entity, and sometimes it was split as two entities. So let's go into some details about cardio-DIS track. So it was the first track for disease recognition in Spanish. And here we followed the straightforward pipeline with first document preprocessing, splitting it into sentences, then fine-tuning a BERT-based model for a token classification task, basically identifying whether tokens belongs to the entity class or not, then post-processing to fix some annotation issue, and the obtaining of extracted mentions. As for the challenge result, here we can see that our system obtained the third best result, and it's a Spanish BERT-based system. We compared the different models, and this turned out to be the best. As for the second track, it was slightly more challenging, as it was positing a multilingual problem for us, and we had to extract drugs from clinical notes. Before going into details, I want to share the three questions that we asked ourselves when we addressed the challenge. So the first question was whether a multilingual model, a single model for all of the languages, will be able to perform as good as the monolingual ones. The second question was whether we can use official drug registries to enhance named entity recognition. And the third one, given that there is a very small fraction of the sentences that actually contain some drugs, we can use some sentence filtering to enhance the precision of our system. So regarding the first question, we used XML Roberta base backbone, and we did domain adaptation for the clinical text. So we trained it on mask language model and objective to enhance the understanding of clinical domain. And for that, we collected a special data set with more than 20 million tokens for each of the target languages, where we included Wikipedia texts related to clinical domain, medical ontologies, EMEA documentation, drug description, and open challenge data. The second question was related to drug dictionaries, and medication extraction is quite a challenging task because drug dictionaries that are approved by European Medical Agency are regularly updated. They are updated once in 2 weeks or once a month. So it's very hard for the system to stay up to date. And we wanted to check whether using this updated information as a dictionary will be helpful for us to find the named entities in the text. So here you can see some resources from which we collected the dictionary. But there were several issues with our drug dictionary. It is not a very straightforward task to use raw extracted data because some drug names are quite ambiguous. For instance, here you can see the example with glucose that could be, on the one hand, a lab test, and on the other one, it could be a drug name. There are also quite interesting drug names as C, for instance, that you can see on the right-hand side. It's very hard to disambiguate these types. We try to manually clean the list of the dictionaries up to our knowledge, but still there might be some inconsistencies and ambiguity. And then the last point on the sentence filtering. So we took our domain adapted XLM Roberta model and trained a basic binary classifier on identifying empty and non-empty sentences. So non-empty sentence is a sentence that actually contains the entity of interest. In this case, it's a medication, and empty sentence is a sentence that does not contain it. So what is the combination of the modules of our pipeline? Here you can see on the slide that there are blocks that are presented in dashed lines, and they're optional. So we can either go with a straightforward pipeline, starting with preprocessing, then fine-tuning a BERT-based model, and then post-processing, or we can add those models with sentence filtering and additional dictionary matches for European drug registries. As a result, we can see that multilingual models actually perform quite closely to the monolingual ones, and there is a clear trend regarding the number of resources the language has. So we can see that for English, the difference in performance is the largest, and for Italian, the performance is more or less the same. In the final leaderboard, multilingual model actually surpassed monolingual one. As for the use of the drug dictionaries, here we can see that pure transformer model performs the best. And the last row in the table shows what we can achieve using just dictionaries. So here we're lucky to have some annotated data, but if we don't have the data, we can use the dictionary-based approach, and it can give us up to 70 or 80% of recall in most of the cases, but precision for Spanish especially is quite low. And obviously the best matching case here is English one. It has the highest both precision and recall in terms of dictionary matching. And the last question concerned the filtering of empty sentences. As expected, filtering gave us some boost in precision, but it was not significant enough to take over the first place. So basically, the drop in recall that we've seen made it impossible to compete with the best system. And as for the challenge result, we took the absolute fourth place and team second place in the Spanish track with the Spanish monolingual Roberta model as the best model. And then the second model from our submission is the multilingual Aksenova model. Then for English, our BioLinkBERT model-based system took the first place. And the second best of our system is, again, multilingual Aksenova model without any additional modifications. And then for Italian, as I've already said, Aksenova shows the best performance with the monolingual model performing the second best. Here I want to acknowledge your Horizon Europe project that supported our work and gave us funding. And with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you for your attention. And with the QR code, you can find our paper. I'll be happy to answer your questions.